going to be where we take our strong feelings to the ballot box. Brilliant. So I think that we're now live online as well as in the room, which is brilliant. So welcome to everybody that's joining us from home, and welcome to our candidates. And I also just want to point out, because she's got a very important role here, I'd like to welcome our moderator, Leah Chikamba-Malondo. Leah is a powerhouse woman who is a fierce voice for community members' voices in Gorton, and I have the honour of working with her there. So, I'd like to welcome our candidates. Joining us this evening are Bev Craig from the Labour Party, Geraldine Hoggins from the Green Party, Phil Eckersley from the Conservative Party, and Richard Kilpatrick from the Liberal Democrats. Welcome. So just to let you know that all 7 candidates were invited to come today, and I received some very polite apologies from Marcus Farmer, and I didn't hear anything back from Sian Astley or Marlon West. And thank you so much for the candidates that have come, because signing up to a hustings, like you guys, signing up to a hustings with a twist without really knowing what that twist is might have felt a little risky, so we do very much appreciate you being here and coming along for the ride. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Leah, who's going to expertly take us through our hustings.
Thank you so much, Beth. And thank you, everyone. It's good to see everyone, and it's good to see how we've all already been engaging on at our tables. And also, I'd like to say thank you to our candidates today. So, first of all, we're going to hear the opening remarks, statements, and then we'll go into the Q&A. I will be very, very strict with time, just so that we can make sure that we get through all the questions that we've got. I've got Zara here to help me with timekeeping. So she's got 1 minute warning, then 30 seconds warning, and then a stop. So I'm hoping by the end of 30 seconds, we finished our assessments and we should be fine. So I will also alternate in the way I'll be asking, so that everyone has got the opportunity to rest a little bit before you answer the next question. So this will be 2 minutes to each candidate. So please introduce yourself, which party you are standing for, and tell us your vision for Greater Manchester. So start with Bev.
Hi, so good evening everyone, and well done for coming along to a really important hustings on a very hot evening. I'm Bev Craig, I'm Labour's candidate standing to be Mayor of Greater Manchester, and for the last 5 years I've been the leader of Manchester City Council and worked alongside Andy Burnett to start to deliver growth in every single bit of our region, leading all of the economy issues. I suppose I was thinking on the way in, actually, when we were thinking about community power, what got me into politics. And I didn't imagine as a kid, growing up in a council estate, that one day I'd get to run to be mayor of the city region that I loved and a place that I'm proud to call home. But I actually got involved in politics because I didn't see people that looked or sounded like me. And I didn't feel like communities like mine had enough say, enough agency and enough control. And where I'm from, we're used to people doing things to us. We're used to people seeing us as a negative problem that was a drain on the public purse, not as a positive and proud community that could make a real difference. So I'm standing firmly proud that I love this city region, I love Greater Manchester and all of the pride of cities, towns and villages that we have. But I want it to be better. Too many people feel they don't have power, agency and control, and too many people feel that life is too hard. And I want to fix that. So I'm standing. Sorry, I didn't see the. Just kept throwing the shot at me.
Just finish up.
Oh, right, fine. So for Field at the first hurdle, I think from 30 seconds in I was getting stuck. So hopefully you'll hear more about our progressive platform from building 50,000 new council homes, restoring pride in our high streets, free bus travel for 11 to 18-year-olds. But I want to hear from you tonight about how we build something positive, optimistic, that makes a real difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So your 2-minute mark will start now.
Thank you. Hi everyone. Welcome to Stretford. I'm Geraldine Coggins. I'm the Green Party candidate, and it's great to see so many of you here in Stretford Public Hall. this is exactly the sort of project that we need to see more of, and as your first Green Mayor in Greater Manchester, I'll be absolutely championing projects like this. I have painted walls in this place since day one. I've been involved before we even got into the building, and I love everything that they do here. But I'm really pleased to be here tonight, and you know, one of the 4 pillars of green philosophical thinking is about grassroots democracy. So in the Green Party we really believe in empowering people and making sure that politics is something that we do together, not something that people have done to them. And I remember when the mayoralty started about 10 years ago. I don't know if any of you remember the Devo Mank groups. I used to go to where we were, you know, like this, people powered, yeah, some of you were there. These are people powered groups getting together saying, what do we want from our mayoralty? And I think we're really clear there that, you know, we don't want a load of power focused in one person. And as your Green Mayor, I would be really keen to do everything we can to give power back to the people. That is why, in fact, after years of calling on Trafford Council to have a Citizens' Assembly, I have got one in my manifesto. I'm going to have a Citizens' Assembly when I am your Green Mayor. And, you know, I think for too long we've been told, people here feel like we've had to lower our expectations. I knock on a lot of doors. I've been knocking on doors for over a decade, and I know that people out there have lost hope. This is something I hear over and over again. And to me, this election is about us taking Greater Manchester back, giving power to the people, taking it away from big businesses and the establishment that held on to it for so long. I've got a passion for this place, this is my home, and I've got a plan. I want to create 20,000 genuinely affordable homes. I want to make our buses free for everybody under 22. I want to get our high streets buzzing again, and I want to make this the greenest city region in our country. It's time for real change.
Thank you. Over to Phil.
Thank you very much. Thanks everybody for being here this evening. It's a pleasure to see you all. It's so great to see so much engagement. My name is Phil Eckersley and I'm the Conservative Party candidate for Mayor of Greater Manchester. So who am I? I was born in Ashton-under-Lyne and lived between Droylsden and Oldham growing up. Lived in a council estate myself. I was lucky enough to get into the University of Manchester to do a construction degree. When I completed the construction degree, it was the big economic crash of 2008, which made the whole industry very difficult to deal with. From my own personal experience, my grandma was receiving care at the time, and it wasn't to the standard that our family needed and caused a lot more anxiety than it should have done. That meant that I pivoted from being in the construction sector into wanting to make a real change in the community by establishing a social care company. So that was back in 2010, and I've been providing care in the community for predominantly elderly, but vulnerable adults also, to enable them to stay at home for as long as possible. I set up my business in Wigan, and I now live in Trafford with my wife and young daughter. So very much Greater Manchester through and through. As I say, devolution as a general thing is something I'm very positive about, and that goes down to the local level as well. So giving people like yourselves a strong voice. I want a voice from every single borough, every single ward, to filter up to the Mayor's office, and they are key to making proper decisions that affect your lives, and affect your lives in a positive way, rather than being told what's happening without proper consultation. So that's my message to you. I want to have an open book approach. I want to let you know what's happening and keep that dialogue going. Thank you.
Thank you. So just before I hand over to Richard, I know it's quite warm just to say you've got water bottles right next to your seats there, yeah? Richard.
Thank you. Thank you everyone. My name is Stretford Patrick. I'm the Liberal Democrat candidate for Mayor of Greater Manchester. And to be honest, I know that I'm supposed to give you a pitch, but we're also here to listen, right? And it's actually, I think it's more important to hear from you actually. But what I want to try and offer is to provide the offer of a mayor that wakes up every day and thinks about the issues that care most to the people of Greater Manchester. That's reliable transport, it's affordable housing, it's childcare that is affordable, it's social care that meets the standards that we should expect. And I think, to be honest, our politics is a bit broken, isn't it? Like, it feels more divided every single day. We seem to find reasons to disagree with each other when we probably shouldn't. And all the while, it's people like you and me that are let down by that, right? Let down by the institutions that are supposed to serve you, whether that be councils or police, or social care services, and it's that letdown that I think we need to really change. So I want to focus on making Manchester affordable again. I think we can do that in 3 ways. I think we can make sure that we make childcare affordable to young families, something that is preventing people from deciding to have kids across Greater Manchester. I think it's about being bold about dealing with the housing crisis. And this is not about setting targets of 20,000 or 50,000. It's about being really bold. It's about changing the way we deliver housing, whether that be cooperative housing, whether that be social housing through social rent. We need to change the way we do things. And finally, we need a social care system that works for people. It needs to be affordable. We need to be honest about the crisis in social care across Greater Manchester. That's what I'm going to focus on in this election, and that's what I want to offer as Mayor of Greater Manchester, and hopefully I'll be honoured to get your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just to say, we are out of time. So I'll pass over to Sam in the audience for question 1, please.
Okay, hello everyone. So the first question is about democracy and how we can share power. So too often, politics is something that's done to us rather than with us. Our conversations tonight have surfaced many ideas for doing shared decision making beyond elections, and these ideas, along with those from many other conversations, are coming together over the next few months into a Greater Manchester People's Charter. The Charter will be written by the people of Greater Manchester and will set out some key demands for how we want to be involved in decisions that impact our lives. It's only just getting started, but some examples of the kinds of emerging demands that have been coming through in those conversations so far are direct involvement for residents and unions in how local budgets are spent, so participatory budgeting. More fun and joyful opportunities for local people to come together and be imaginative about solutions to problems. Powerful citizens' assemblies which bring ordinary people together across divides to deliberate together and make recommendations on key issues. Meaningful ways for residents to hold politicians to account between elections. Young people getting more power over things that affect them and their futures, including on climate change. And where possible, payment and or compensation for the contributions to these policy amendments. Volunteer-led groups can often isolate certain demographics. Overall, the common theme is that people are sick of surveys and tokenistic community consultations, frustrated that voting in a flawed system is our only way to impact policy, and hungry to be more directly connected to decisions that need to be made. People want to work together to shape a better future, and they want to make the process fun so that community members can enjoy their time together. From the Chartists, the suffragettes, to the amazing people here in this room calling for progress, we here in Greater Manchester have a proud history of leading the way and doing things differently. If you're elected mayor, how will you make sure that Greater Manchester continues to lead the way in upgrading democracy? How will you make sure that local people will have a real say in decision making? And will you get involved in building the Greater Manchester People's Charter and work with residents to bring their ideas to life?
Thank you, Sam. So 2 minutes each, as usual. So Geraldine first, please.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you all for contributing to this charter. It sounds like a really exciting project, and I'd absolutely love to be more involved in it and to work on this as the years go by. As I mentioned at the start, I'm proposing to have a citizens' assembly. Getting everybody involved and getting that buy-in from our community is so important to making things work. In particular, I'm proposing a citizens' assembly about road safety. We know that 1,000 people are killed and seriously injured on the roads of Greater Manchester every year. And as a councillor, one of the top topics that comes up on the doorstep is road safety. But we know that to make that change, we need buy-in from everyone. And I think this is where community citizens' assemblies and community decision-making really comes to the heart of things. Because if we really want to take a problem seriously, be solutions-focused, and find something that everyone can buy into and everyone will go along with, then coming together and making decisions is the way forward. I think as Sam mentioned, it's important that people do get paid for their time, and I think it's really important that we use sortition, because we know that there are loads of different demographics who aren't able to give up their time, who have just complicated lives and too many pressures going on otherwise. So we really need to make sure that this is something that involves everyone. Participatory budget making is something that I'm really interested in too. I know that our Green Council in Lewisham, for example, is piloting some stuff on this, and I've been really interested in leading the way. And I think as well, like as Richard said earlier, a lot of this is, this is really exciting, pioneering stuff. So I'm absolutely up for listening to what you have to say and listening and learning from best practice around the world, in this country and elsewhere, about what is the best way we can move forward together and bring everybody involved into our decision making.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mayoral. Richard. Thank you.
Thanks. In short, yes. It's a given, right? The fact that there are so many of you in this room discussing the issues about Greater Manchester will enrich democracy, right? Because democracy does not end at the ballot box, does it? I think too many politicians too often think that it does. And politicians are meant to listen all the time. And that's something that I champion in my area, right? I think it is a failure of a politician if it is levied to them that they only ever see election time. It is an absolute failure. So organisations like this, strategies like this are so important. But I think it needs to be systematic in the way that we champion decision-making across Greater Manchester. I think we have the opportunity to do that, actually. Not just on one issue, but on every single power that the Greater Manchester Mayor has. Because scrutiny of this role is absolutely woeful, believe me. I sit on it. I sit on the police and crime panel. The quality of scrutiny is absolutely awful, and it needs to be better. And if politicians aren't capable of doing it, then it should be the people that do it. So absolutely, I support that. And one example is that we don't need to wait for this stuff. Good politicians should be doing it in their communities right now. I do it in my patch in Didsbury. I have delegated £10,000 of my local budgets so that people in Didsbury decide what should be spent on, specifically to deal with the resilience of climate change, because this is a thing that is affecting my community. So, absolutely yes, in short, but we need to find ways to make sure that it's absolutely systematic in the way that we deliver governance and democracy across Greater Manchester. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So sharing democratic decisions. So we're stood here today to get elected. We're not stood here to get elected to represent ourselves, we're here to represent you. Whether you vote Conservative Party or not, I'm still here, if I'm successful, to represent you. When it comes to sharing democracy, the GM People's Charter, I can't see any reason why anybody would be against that. Direct involvement by residents as well. For a vibrant democracy, we need to have residents' input. That's a really important point to make and something I support. When it comes to citizens' assemblies, yes, as I said earlier, we do want feedback and communications and comments from residents, because you're seeing it every day. You're down and seeing what is needed for your communities. Additionally, I have an open books pledge throughout my campaign, and that includes dashboards that make it clear for residents to understand where money is being spent and what outcomes are coming from that money. There's a lot of funding and grants that are given out across Greater Manchester, but nobody really knows who's getting what and what the outcomes of that spending is. And an important thing for me is creating easy to access dashboards to show you all who's getting the money, what are they doing with it, and what are the community getting as value for money from that investment. That's a really important point for me, because it's easy to say, I will fund this, I will fund that, I'll give this money here and there, but we need to get results. We need to make sure that when we do invest this money as a community, we get outcomes and results that are positive for everybody across the whole of Greater Manchester, not just the city centre. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Great.
Thank you. I think there's a lot in the Charter, and it sounds, I think, really energising. I'd give two examples of, it's easy for me to stand up here, isn't it, and say I really believe in it, but I want to give you two examples of where I think listening to people and community power can make a real difference. So firstly, when I became leader of Manchester City Council, I didn't think that we were doing enough on homelessness. To be able to change the approach that we had on homelessness was really important. So beginning with the people that had experienced services, beginning with voluntary and community groups, and beginning by listening, we were able to start to turn some of that on the head. And that's why Manchester is, despite too many people still facing homelessness, bucking national trends, and we're actually producing numbers. We also, in another example, changed the 9:30 cap, because that's what our older people's panel in Greater Manchester told us that they wanted to see. So I would say there's two ways I'll approach this. First is the involvement in direct decisions, but the second is the involvement in broader agenda setting and being able to make a difference. I'd say I'll do this in a number of different ways. I'll continue and expand the panels that already exist across Greater Manchester, but I'll go further. I'll use commissions on difficult issues. So rent affordability and controls is a really good example of where I can commission. In my manifesto, we'll say that we'll begin to work on those issues. But I'll also set up a community ownership fund, because actually giving people money, agency and autonomy where they live to take a stake in the things that matter to them are so important, and happy to work with any group to be able to set that by. Because the reality is, you're here because you care about where you live, you care about making a difference, and you need political leaders that are able to back that, but also recognise that politicians do not have the monopoly on good ideas. I bet every night came from the words of a Methodist minister in Manchester City Centre, because he said during the Beast from the East, if we can do this when times are tough, why can't we do it every night?
So, our next question is about children and young people, and I'm glad to say we've got a young person to come and ask this question. Can we welcome Salma?
As I've already been introduced, I'm Salma. I'm a young representative for Stretford CIC, where we truly want to empower women so that they can make a mark in this world, and also involve lots of young people through our catering, through experiences and giving them connections that they can build on. So my question is, as has been already said, is about young people. I wanted to ask, how will we make sure that all of the city region's children and young people are empowered to be part of democracy? And how will you create a space for them to be actively part of decision making and be represented in Greater Manchester?
Thank you. Thanks very much. So without covering the previous ground around democracy, because it extends to young people as well as adults, everybody should have a voice. But when it comes to the opportunities for children and young people, we really need to start supporting our businesses better. We have a situation, and something I've experienced as a business owner myself, where it's becoming very difficult to afford to employ people, let alone younger people who need more resource to train and upskill. So what I want to see as Greater Manchester Mayor is more funding for younger people to get skills that will actually get them a job, that will fund them a job that they can upskill and keep. Far too many times I see people going through apprenticeship programs or other similar programs, do a job for a year or so, and then drop out or do something completely different. Now, that's something I want to improve. If we improve our job opportunities for our young people, we will get a better Greater Manchester area. There's a lot of funding that has been sucked into the city centre of Manchester, and it's something I want to change. Our Greater Manchester boroughs are 10 boroughs, and the other 9 boroughs need proper funding and proper grants to enable them to unlock opportunities for our children and young people as well. So that's an important pledge of mine. Additionally, we need to protect our green spaces. I think our green spaces are completely undervalued and are being eroded away year by year. When I was younger, I was out on the field running around, kicking the ball, climbing up trees and sometimes falling out of them as well. We need to protect our green spaces. These are key growth moments for our children. These are how people interact, make social bonds, learn how to take risks. So it's really important for me that we keep the green spaces that we have in this great Greater Manchester area. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bev, and then Bev, and then Richard. Thank you.
You're keeping us on the toes here. It's a really good question, and shout out to Sofra, a fantastic social enterprise in the ward of Bownage that I've been proud to support. So I think it's not enough, is it, to have youth councils and youth MPs, because I know growing up I was one of those young people that didn't feel like the youth council would represent me. So I want to be able to take that further. I want to build on the work that we have with our youth panel already, but also the talk, and I mentioned commissions in my last answer. I also want us to think about young people in the 18 to 27 space, because it's easy to have a strategy for under 18s, and I've said that I'll set up a youth commission for Gen Z, looking at those in the 18 to 27 space to be able to set the policy of Greater Manchester, because we don't currently have a coherent strategy speaking to that age group. I think I stand on a track record of showing that I've done this for young people in Manchester. When I became leader in 2021, immediately I dedicated 2022 to the voices of children and young people across our city. We went out and we spoke to tens of thousands of Manchester young people, helping them design the system. It's why we started on a path to become the child-friendly city that we've just been awarded through UNICEF. And as part of that, democratic youth participation is a fundamental core. And UNICEF have showed that we're doing that in Manchester. I want to roll that and I want to expand that. And that doesn't mean when I talk about democracy that I don't care about the other issues that mean we need to have good quality homes that young people can afford. We need to change the education system, reframe apprenticeships, give opportunities, and we need to fund youth services in every borough, and we need to fix the mental health system. I think listening to young people, engaging them in decisions and fixing their problems go hand in hand to do that at the same time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. I think it's a really important one. Yes, it's important to make sure that young people are at the heart of decision making and making sure that some of the panels and some of the People's Charter, the young people are at the heart of that. But actually, apologies to the other candidates because they're not used to this story, but you know, Phil was talking about spending his childhood enjoying himself. I'll be honest, I spent my childhood, especially my teenage years, drinking alcohol in a park in Teesside, because I had nowhere else to go. You know, and I don't think that's an unusual story, is it? And actually, should we be a little bit more bold in how we deal with these sort of issues? Like we have developers across the city who are making billions of pounds in profit, who are telling us that it's not viable to build the affordable housing and social housing for young people in the future, but they are going to put a sauna and a steam room and a cinema complex in those block of flats. I think we're letting young people down, aren't we? And I think it comes back to the main point that I made, is that trust between politicians and young people, right? And I think actually the trust between politicians and young people are at an all-time low. I think local elections shows that. I think that the lack of engagement shows us that. So there's absolutely more that we can do on that. But it's making sure that those developers are held to account, that they put infrastructure in place, and if they're not willing to do it, then they don't get a penny of finance from Greater Manchester. It's as simple as that. Because we need that sort of infrastructure to take people like me, when I was 15, off the streets and off the parks and give me something more positive to engage with. And I think that's really, really key. And as Mayor of Greater Manchester, I'd make that an absolute guarantee. There's not a penny that will be given to a big developer to make billions of profits if they're not going to invest in the infrastructure that this city and our youth people need.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you, Sam. I'm also a fan of Saffron as well. This is such an important question. Our young people have been deeply, deeply let down by the generation of politicians and leaders that we have at the moment. And as a mother, I think it's absolutely a top priority that we are putting young people at the centre of everything that we're planning. I'm going to echo what Richard has said. the money that has been, our taxpayers' money, has been funneled into those private developers who are building these luxury towers and executive apartments that most of us can't afford to live in. And our young people are stuck at home in their bedrooms, not able to move out of home. And I will absolutely, as your first Green Mayor, make sure that that is not happening. Our money has to be spent for the benefit of the people in Greater Manchester. And that means all the people, not just the people in the city centre, but those in the outer boroughs as well. The young people, they need hope. They need to know that they will be able to move out of home, that they will find something that is genuinely affordable that they can move into. I think empowering them with free buses for everyone under 22 is a huge part of this. If young people are struggling to make ends meet and can't get out and about, they're not going to be able to get to the next level and get involved in these higher level things. I really like the work that Trafford and Stretford College Group has been doing on getting young people registered to vote and doing all that political education. We know that if young people vote in their first election, they're likely to continue voting for the rest of their lives. And if they don't vote in their first election, they're likely to continue not voting. And this is how these habits are continued through generations, that, you know, all those voices are lost for generations. So we can break that habit with really good education in our schools and colleges and really empower our young people to get out there and to get involved.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Third question, I'll call, well, Joe has got someone, but just so I can let you know which order you're going to be in this time, so that you're not running up and down. So we'll start with Richard, Geraldine, Bev, and Phil.
Hello, okay. My name's Tom. So this question is about how Greater Manchester has just started to make some progress in shifting the narrative from crisis response to prevention. I'm here with the Elephant Trail group, who's a local group of people that are working to use their lived experience to shape policy change within Trafford, but that can be across Greater Manchester. Greater Manchester have just started to make some progress in shifting the narrative from crisis response to prevention. Elephant Trail are with local people trying to use their experiences to shape policy change in Trafford, but that can be spread across Manchester hopefully. But there's still a long way to go. Prevention looks like avoiding crisis in the first place by ensuring that we can afford decent lives, we can have good food, good housing, feel safe and be equally treated. That we can feel like we have a voice, that we have good green spaces, and that we can lead active, healthy lives. So that life is about positive well-being rather than stress and being on the brink of an emergency and feeling powerless. It also looks like having support available from local organisations that we trust and in places that we like to be, so that we can get the help we need if we need it, before things start to get really bad. How will you push to continue the shift from crisis to prevention via trusted local organisations?
Thank you, and thanks for the question. I mean, it's really frustrating for me as a local councillor to try and advocate for my residents sometimes. Again, that link between the institutions and people and how those institutions work can actually seem like walking through mud, quite honestly. And if it's difficult for me, then my job is to advocate for my residents, it's going to be really difficult for my residents. Like my advice surgery is supposed to last an hour on a Saturday morning. They last almost 3 because it's getting worse and worse. And actually, we're making progress, I understand that, but actually there's so much more that we can do, isn't there? I think we really need to shape up how institutions operate and work with people. I think we need to rewrite the contract. We used to have a social contract in this country. Like, you used to be able to trust the institutions to work for you and that they wouldn't cover when they make a mistake. there are some real complex issues that are still happening in this city on issues that we thought we were over, whether that be the child sexual exploitation scandal, whether it be the issues with GMP, that it is still impossible to help residents to navigate through that. And the impact that has on families is real. So we need to rewrite that contract. And again, if Greater Manchester is serious about this maxim about doing things differently, maybe we start it here. Maybe we rewrite the social contract between voters, residents, people, and the institutions that need to represent them. I think that's a good start. And in doing that, making sure that it is people at the heart of holding those organisations to account. And reminding that those organisations work for us. I know that's a really broad answer, and I'd love to talk more about that, but I've only got about a few seconds left. But I think it's one area that we really, really need to do better, and I think politicians need to start, because politicians need to be the lead in doing this.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom. As Greens, we really want to focus on prevention, and there's 3 strands to that. So first of all, with healthcare, we need to be focusing on getting it right the first time round. I want to start a Healthy Homes programme where we are clamping down on landlords and enforcing really rigorous standards on landlords across our city region. We know that 1 in 12 private renters are living with a Category 1 risk in their home. In their very own home, they have one of the most urgent, most dangerous situations, and they're not being dealt with. And meanwhile, landlords are making a fortune out of people living in this sort of misery. So, clean, happy, healthy homes, active transport and public transport that's getting us around, getting us clean air, helping us to live longer, happier, healthier lives. Secondly, police. We need to really ramp up our crime prevention. I want to double the money spent in the violence reduction unit. And this is a really crucial part of what we do. It tackles the root causes of crime and gives young people and their families support at the time when they most need it. And it helps these young people to go on to live good lives and to save us all from crime in the years to come. So really focusing on prevention in violence reduction. I've already mentioned road safety, but finally, as agreed, the climate crisis is going to be the biggest problem that we all face. We know that it's a national emergency, it's affecting our national security. We know that it's going to affect our food security, our water security. It's going to affect every element of our lives. We are living in the 3rd heat wave of the year, and we're in early July. So as Green, as the first Green Mayor, I will be putting tackling the climate and nature emergency at the heart of everything we do, because this is the most important thing we can do to prevent health, lifestyle, war, all the problems that we will face years down the come. We know they're coming. Generations to come will say, you knew that this was happening, you saw that, you were elected as our leaders and you didn't take action. Well, I'm going to say, I'm going to stand here and tell you that I will be doing everything I can to answer those future generations and give us a good, healthy, clean planet to live on.
Thank you.
And thank you for the question, because I think the fundamental rewriting of our public services to make them work for people is exactly what we're trying to do with Live Well. So the progress that you referenced that we're starting to make is because we're taking a decision that actually we don't want services doing things to people. We don't want money spent on crisis at the end. We want to be able to shift that money into communities, to people with the expertise, to be able to intervene earlier. And I want to build on what we're trying to do with Live Well, which is around having hubs and centres in every community that recognise the role that the voluntary and community sector plays in playing their part in prevention. Because we have to change how the system works, that funds better homes, that funds the ability to live healthy lives, and deals with poverty and inequalities in its root cause. And you only do that when you work together as a system. But I also think, and as Mayor, I would call for more powers from government on day one to do that. Because it's all well and good us talking about the Greater Manchester services that I would be in charge of. But we need more control from government. So on day one, I'd call for powers around our skills system, more control and agency within the health system, more role within the criminal justice system to be able to bring those powers to truly shift into prevention. Because the reality is, for too long in Greater Manchester, our population have been too poor, too sick, and facing too much crisis to be able to plan for a better future. Listening to those communities and putting their agency at the front is how you get that rewiring. It's an area I care about. It's the reason I led on health and care integration in Manchester for 4 years, and it's something that I think in Greater Manchester we build on and we go further.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the question, Tom. I felt like I jumped into a submarine or something before with a radar thing in there, but glad we got it sorted. So yeah, prevention, I see it every single day in my business, looking after the elderly, in particular vulnerable adults. One of the main problems that we see in the community is people reaching crisis point. And that is for a number of reasons, but it's always worse when you allow things to go to crisis point, and prevention is key, and prevention needs to be properly funded. So my pledge as Greater Manchester Mayor is to ensure that all the boroughs are properly funded with the support services that they need. That includes affordable housing. Now, I don't want to see the green belt built on. That's one of my pledges as well. What I pledge is to build affordable housing on brownfield sites and unused properties. We have hundreds of closed shops, derelict properties, land that is just rubble that nobody wants to do anything with. That's a real opportunity to provide affordable housing in areas that already have infrastructure and services in place to maintain people moving into those areas. Additionally, I want to make it simple for charities and third sector organisations to access funding and grants. I know from my own experience that charities are really hindered by spending a lot of their time trying to find the grant money for the next phase or the next year. Now we need to make that a lot better for charities so they have some long-term sustainability and understand that they can deliver a service locally as a charity and not be worrying every 3 months about whether they can afford to continue their service. So that's a really important point of mine and something that I'll be focused on closely with Greater Manchester's Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to test you and see if you remember the order for the next question. So the first one will be Bev, and then Phil, then Geraldine, and then Richard. So Joe, next question please.
So my name's Joe. I'm here representing Trafford Food Banks, and I've been helping to facilitate some of the amazing conversations that we had in the room tonight before you guys came to the stage. Planning, housing, development and regeneration was a really strong theme of the conversations on the tables. Lots of people wanted to talk about that, and lots of people mentioned the drastic need for much more social and council genuinely affordable homes. So most people in this room live in Trafford, and just down the road in Old Trafford there is the Mayoral Development Corporation, which is set to deliver 15,000 new homes. Obviously Mayoral Development Corporation will be something that you have powers over, and there are 8 across Greater Manchester, so it's potentially an opportunity to deliver that really needed social and council houses. Another theme this evening is kind of residents getting involved. And again, Mayoral Development Corporations are an opportunity for residents to be really involved in decisions which will have big impacts on the communities that they live in. So my question is, do you agree that local people should have a real voice on Mayoral Development Corporations and projects like it? And how will you make sure that that would happen as Mayor?
So the short answer is yes, and I think one of the reasons that we've set up the Good Growth Fund has been to be able to take forward a different way of delivering growth right across Greater Manchester. Mayoral Development Corporations are one way of pulling all of that together to bring all of our powers together, and they're in the very early stages. So I think there's a commitment for me to be able to work with residents and to work with community groups to see what the best form of engagement, involvement and decision making looks like. Because I think what I would say is that no matter who I speak to, we are facing a housing crisis. It's one of the reasons why when I became leader of Manchester City Council, I set out a different approach around building council and social houses, rejecting the government at the time's view of affordable homes homes and setting our own. And that's why in Manchester last year we built more council, social and genuinely affordable homes than we've done in 25 years. It's why I say with confidence that we need 50,000 across Greater Manchester council, social and genuinely affordable homes. We need to support our renters. We need to intervene in the housing market to make sure that everyone's got a good quality home. But also, when building those homes and building them on brownfield first, we need to involve people in shaping what communities look like. More green spaces, more community infrastructure like GPs, like schools, local shops and supporting small and medium enterprises. All of these things go hand in hand, and that's why it's so important. This isn't just a development, this isn't just money and wealth coming in that somebody else won't benefit from. This is about how a community that lives here, is from here and will continue to live here, benefits from new opportunities being brought to them, and of course people should have a proper say, and I'll work with them to shape what that looks like.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Firstly, I was a Greater Manchester resident myself and living in the centre of Manchester for a number of years. I was shocked at how many luxury flats were getting built, just popping up everywhere, and shocked at how unaffordable that they were. And shocked thrice that many of these apartment complexes were getting snapped up by Chinese pension funds and other investment funds. That, to me, is not the way forward. And we've had Labour running that over the past 9 years. That's not the way to create affordable housing and long-term sustainability for our residents. That's why I say we must build affordable housing on brownfield sites. How we do that is another question. The main driver for people going for the greenfield is because it's easy to build on. There's no clearance, there's no demolition. Now we need to bridge that gap with developers and give them some form of incentive, whatever that might be, to clear those areas so we can build the affordable housing where we need it. The homes aren't getting built fast enough. We do need to support development to some degree. We should be allowing projects to be delivered across the borough, not just focused on the city centre. I don't want to see the continuation of executive houses and executive flats continuing to be developed with nobody living in them. It's great for those people who want to live in those accommodations, but we're getting a lot of people that are being left behind in Greater Manchester. And as your mayor, your Conservative Party mayor, I want to change that, and I pledge to change that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely. Again, the short answer is yes. I'd like to see, genuine engagement with the communities. We know, we've all seen those council consultations, and we all know that they are ticky boxy, that what we're presented with is fait accompli, and we may be able to do some tinkering around the edges. So I would very much like to really deeply engage with people as much as we can. On the issue of planning, we do have, as we've heard over and over tonight, we have a housing crisis here. 1 in 80 of our children in Greater Manchester is growing up in temporary accommodation and growing up with no safe, secure, warm place to call a home. And I think we all know that this is deeply, deeply wrong. And we know that the power isn't with the people, as Joe was asking for. The power is with the developers. The money is with the developers, the power is with the developers. And I'm afraid the system that Labour and the previous Conservative government have left us with, that remains to be the case. So what I will do as your Green Mayor is do everything I can to stand up to those developers, to only give them our taxpayer money if they are providing us with significant amounts of genuinely affordable homes, if there are real benefits for real people here who need to find somewhere they can live and they can afford to live. But also, as your Green Mayor, I will have a strong voice to call on Westminster for change. So I will be using that. If Labour lose Greater Manchester to the Green Party, they will absolutely have to listen to that strong Green voice. And I will be using that to call for rent controls. We should be able to impose rent controls here. We should be able to clamp down on those road landlords who are making an absolute fortune out of our people, taking that money, as Phil has said, out of the country often, not even being paying tax here. But we need to give that back to our people. So the Green Party, we are not funded by multimillionaires and big corporations. I am the only one here who is not answerable to big donors or to private developers. I'm the only one here who is working only for you, and my vested interests are the people and the planet that we live on.
Thank you very much.
I don't know where my big donors are, but Joe, thanks first off for all the work that Trafford Food Bank do. I know that we'll be doing incredible work in the community. Right, here's the sobering stat, right? We needed 150,000 affordable, genuine affordable, which really means social, houses built yesterday. So, and this is why it frustrates me, we're going to be locked in this debate where we talk about the number of properties and setting targets. That's the reality of the situation, and every single day it's going to get worse. And, you know, I sit on a planning committee. Local councillors can often get lost in this sort of stuff. Viability assessments that big developers provide to give an excuse of why they're not doing the thing that they should be doing is an absolute sham. Like, it doesn't work. It has destroyed the housing market, and that's why it needs total redesigning from the ground up. Now, how do we do that? First off, to answer one of your questions directly with the mayoral development companies, let's put people on the board. Let's put residents on the board. Let's put businesses in that area on the board. Let's make sure that they're there, holding them to account. But also, let's make sure that they're also totally redefining what sort of housing we should be producing. Cooperative housing, Denmark does it, Scandinavia does it, why not us? A model where people can buy in for 5 years, pay their rent, and actually they get a 50% of that rent back to put towards the deposit on their first home. Denmark does it, Germany does it, why can't we? So there are ways to do this. We have to just think outside the box, right? But we also need to make sure that goes alongside regenerating town centres across Greater Manchester with new jobs in the future. That means looking at AI, it means looking at green jobs and making sure that the jobs and their community is right there where they live. So I think we need to, this is going to take a big culture shock for a lot of the parties that have been before, but I think that's what we need. And hopefully, if we have residents and businesses in those communities at the heart of the mayoral development companies, we can make it happen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So for our next question, I'm going to invite Simon.
And Rachel.
Oh, and Rachel.
Hello, I'm Simon. I'm one of the directors here at Stretford Public Hall, and despite previously not a qualified sound engineer, so apologies. My question, it's about this space that we're all in. It's owned by the community. It was, the story of trying to save this space from private development. It's quite an inspiring story, and it has actually inspired a national movement now through the We're Right Here campaign. This campaign is really to recognise that actually communities are the best place to influence and design services, policies, and own assets in the spaces that communities come to work, to play, to live in. But it all starts with community leadership. So the first part of this question is, I want to know what stories of community leadership have inspired you. In the spirit of community and partnership work, I'm also going to introduce Rachel for the second part of this question.
Thanks, Simon. I'm Rachel. I head up Greater Manchester Community-Led Homes. So just to point out that in Greater Manchester we've got a really unique opportunity over any other combined authority, where we've got a community-led housing hub funded by the combined authority, which we're most grateful for. And we've also got a community-owned registered provider, which means that we can actually build social housing with Homes England grant. We've also, in our network and looking around the room, seen quite a few people have got hundreds of people without great ideas about how they'd like to live. You mentioned cooperative housing. We haven't had a new co-op for over 30 years in the heart, in the home of the co-op movement. Yeah. So we're really, really behind in the delivery of community-led housing on other regions. So I was wondering how the candidates might support the growth of community assets, not just housing, owning community centres, buildings like this, so that communities can provide a long-term legacy for the future that can bring money into that area over 40, 80, hundreds of years in perpetuity, as they say. And which these things seem like small-scale talking about the need for 50,000 houses, etc. But they're delivering massive impact, and it allows people to really feel like they've made a difference. So just, how can you balance that demand for units against the demand for homes? Thank you.
That's a lot of questions. Okay, we've got 2 minutes for all of this.
2 minutes for all of that.
Okay. Thank you, Simon and Rachel. Community leadership stories that inspired me. There's quite a few Trafford councillors here today will know that I am a big advocate for our public toilets, and we can't afford to open the public toilets that we have in Trafford, and there are volunteers in our parks around our borough spending their weekends and evenings opening, closing and cleaning our public toilets. So they are the sort of community leaders that absolutely inspire me. In terms of community housing, absolutely. I will make sure that in our MDC, in our Mayoral Development Corporation, and in all of the projects I'm doing around housing, that we are absolutely giving, and this is in my manifesto, first preference to co-ops, to community groups, to CICs, and the more power we can give to people, the better, as far as I'm concerned. I want to build 10,000 new affordable, genuinely affordable homes, so you can rent at housing benefit rate. That's what we mean by genuinely affordable. But what's more than that, I want to buy, fix up and retrofit another 10,000 and rent them out again at genuinely affordable rents. And this is the kind of, that can include as well the kind of small scale projects you were talking about, because when you're buying, you might be looking at a few here, a few there. So this is a key part of what we're wanting to do. I want to have an empty shops team that is going to have the skills, the funding and the tools that we need to give community projects like Stretford Public Hall, like OE's Art in Eltringham, and all these small community groups and cooperatives, the tools, the funding they need to get projects like that off the ground. We know we were able to make this happen in Stretford, which is amazing. OEs have been able to make it happen in Altrincham Town Hall, but too many communities aren't as empowered as us. They have far more difficult lives. They haven't got the money circulating in the community, frankly. So I want to give that power back to all our communities so that everybody can have the sort of wonderful community space that we have here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the question. I mean, I'm slightly biased because I'm a trustee of a community asset in my community. I see the amazing stuff that it does. And I think it might even be where you got married, actually, Beth. Parsonage Gardens? but it provides such an amazing community asset. And it's so important that communities have the opportunity to do that. Because I tell you what, Steve Parr, you wanted examples. A man called Steve Parr is not with us anymore, unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago with brain tumour, was the reason that community asset was wrestled from the control of the local authority in a state of disrepair, and it became a community art installation, it became a community art gallery, and it's where the people of my community come and meet, and some get married, and it's incredible. In terms of other examples, green spaces are community assets. Sometimes councils can't be trusted forever to look after its community assets, unfortunately. So you know what? Let's put it into trust. Let's totally rechange how we deal with green spaces. And in doing that, when we do build new developments, and there's going to be a point in the next couple of decades where we are going to have to look at green belt. I'm sorry, everyone, it's true. And it means that what we can do is we can build in community-owned assets into developments in the future across Greater Manchester, and I think that's really, really key.
Thank you. Thank you.
Testing us every time this. So really quickly, I think my community-led story. So I got elected in 2011, and one of the first things that happened overnight was that we lost nearly 50% of the council budget. And I joined the local campaign to save Burnage Library, that turned that into a community centre and hub. And the people that led the fight, incredible local people in our community because they cared about something. It's fair to say that was better as a community library than actually it was originally, because it was led by people in the community that understood their community. But we have now thankfully been able to put more money back into it to be able to bring it back up to full-time hours. In terms of the rest of the question, a couple of things really quickly I would say. Community housing for me is really important, and I think if we think about the different types of housing that we need as that model, it's really good. So it's not just for me around council and social homes that I'll build, but actually some of the funding models that we can use through the combined authority, like you referenced, can see more of that. In my view, it has been too slow for you to get the money and you to get the nod that you've needed, and I'd like to take that further. But I'd also like to go further, and I'm clear in my manifesto that I'll have a community ownership fund where groups like this can bid into to save their assets and be backed through the Good Growth Fund, and I think that's really, really important. I'm also looking at what we can do around community investment platforms that bring different kinds of social investment into the city region, and I want to further build on the work of Signpound, the work we do with our credit unions, because this isn't and should never be a middle class endeavour. We should be putting power and control in the hands of people that need it. And really, really quickly, just on the last questions, I just want to put a little fact out there, just on points of accuracy. Taxpayers' money does not go on luxury developments. Private companies go on luxury developments. And last year, for the first time in 40 years, we were able to start building social housing in Manchester city centre.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon and Rachel. I think this is a fabulous example of the community coming together and creating such a marvellous space. It really is a beautiful building. You've done a great job with it. With me, I've got a community story and a supporting community asset story all in one, so should be able to keep it in time. There's a community centre where I represent. I'm a local councillor for Bowden Ward in Trafford, so I'm a Trafford councillor. The community centre was basically notified it was going to be sold, it was going to be disposed of, and houses to be built on the site. It's been a long process working with the group who run that community centre, but we've made some really great progress. Having support in the community from local councils like me is essential. Assets of community value, that was one thing that the group weren't sure how to navigate. Held their hand, went through the establishing that location as an asset of community value, and they got that accepted. And again, we've got community right to buy. I support those schemes. They need to be there because we need these kind of centres and schemes for people to take advantage of locally. So we have about 6 houses, I think it was, that we're going to get built. Reduced to 2 now, and we're going to get a brand new community facility there. So we're really fortunate because that could have been a community centre that was gone forever. So a really, really good win, and I will support community projects similar and of varied sizes and scales, and I think they're good things, generally good things. Thank you, and thanks for your efforts.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So for the next 2 questions, I'll give you a minute each, just so that at the end, I can give you a bit more time for closing statements. So it will be a minute each, and I'll tell you the order that you're going to go in. So we'll start with Richard, and then Phil, and then Geraldine, and then Bev. So over to Joe.
Hi, thank you. Hi, I'm Liv from the Greater Manchester Citizens Assembly campaign. Thanks for coming, and thanks to everyone. So if there was a permanent and powerful Citizens Assembly of Greater Manchester, and a Citizens Assembly brings together a representative group of everyday residents through a lottery system, a bit like a jury, what kinds of topics would you like to see them discuss and make progress on together? And how could the involvement of a representative sample of Greater Manchester people or residents brought together through deliberating together help you to move a tricky issue forwards? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. There's a plethora of issues. I think the 3 that I'll focus on are the 3 that are really important to me. I do think that the country, Greater Manchester in particular, is going through an affordability crisis, and there's 3 strands of that. And I think it's really important that people are at the heart of pushing decision makers into focusing on the issues that will practically make a difference to them. So one would be the childcare cost crisis. It is really real. It's in my workload all the time. Two would be the housing crisis. We've spoken to that a lot. And then three would be social care and the impact of social care and the affordability of social care is having on almost every family that will have to go through navigating that system. And I think we need to do a much better job of doing it. I think we've got people at the heart of that, because that's what we're about, right? We've got people at the heart of that, and I think we'll do something about it. But there are others. I can tell you a plethora of things, but I think culturally we have to put it at the heart of decision making in Manchester so that we can look at all of the other issues that we deal with as well, including things like climate change and climate emergency and resilience.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. So I believe that everybody from all the boroughs should be represented in decision making. I think one area that will be really key is opening books. That's one of my pledges. I want to ask residents what you want to see and what you need to see. There is no point having reports and financial information buried in websites that nobody can ever access or see or work out. I want to make sure that this information is clear as crystal and visual, so people, all residents, can look at it and go, okay, where are we? What's performing? What's not performing? I would also want to know your priorities for housing. Where do local people feel like we desperately need affordable housing? Where are the brownfield sites in those areas? That would be a key area for me to look at with the Assembly. Additionally, again, coming off the brownfield sites, protecting those green spaces. And additionally, the lottery. I know we mentioned that we'd be getting residents from all across the borough, but I think we need to make sure that there's representatives from more rural and urban areas of every borough, because the need challenges differ quite significantly. So that's another area I'd like to make sure is covered as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So yes, in the Green Party, as I said, we believe in decision making being at the lowest appropriate level. So I really wanted to do citizens' assemblies wherever it's appropriate. I have one in the manifesto, as I mentioned, on road safety. I have called for many years on Trafford Council to do one about the climate crisis as well. And I think the kind of issues where you need one is ones that involve a really recognisable problem that we can all see, and that will involve changes to our lives, so that we need that community buy-in. There's certain things that can quite easily be done by the council or by government, but there's other things that will require us all to make changes. So I think they're the sort of places where citizens' assemblies are really important, so that we are all making changes that we have decided on. And we've got to make sure that we're including young people there, at least down to the age of 16. Ideally, maybe I would like to see younger as well, so that we can really engage with the future generations as well. And of course, it's important that our citizen assemblies are evidence-led, so we will be, of course, informing them, bringing them the relevant experts, and listening to those recommendations. I'm a member of a group called Compassion in Politics, and I really believe in these ways of doing kind of compassionate, cooperative, inclusive politics, and being really solutions focused and getting to where we need to go.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. So I mentioned two areas that will be in my manifesto. One's around rent affordability, and the second is around setting that new youth strategy for 18 to 27-year-olds, talking about youth opportunity. But I also think where these have worked well, when I've worked with universities, around the civic universities work, where we've paid people for their time and worked really hard to get a diverse audience through, is that when you deal with the hard stuff that politicians aren't always brave enough to find consensus on. And I would set a challenge around how we meet our 2038 net zero commitments around tackling the climate crisis. But I would focus in on three particular areas. I'd talk about skills and opportunities and how we make that transition actually benefit people. I'd talk about retrofits, because at the minute, beyond the public purse, it's really hard to get much of a commitment from landlords or from tenants. But I'd also encourage people to talk about the wedge issues, where they divide people over who uses our roads, how you use your bike, how you walk on pavements, and actually use consensus to bring people together.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I think we've got one more question from the floor, so I'll hand understand that? Yeah? And the order that you're going to go in, because you've only got a minute for this one too. So we'll start with Geraldine, Richard, Phil, and Bev.
Thanks so much for coming. Just a quick last question. It's great to see all the economic growth in Manchester. It's absolutely fantastic for the city. But the main point we want to ask is how are you going to ensure this benefits all of the residents and all 10 boroughs? Because we all know it doesn't go to everyone and not all the boroughs benefit.
Thanks. This is one of the key things we hear over and over again. I was in Bolton the other day, and 1/3 of the shops in Bolton are closed, and places like Bolton and Oldham and Rochdale and Tameside, they really feel left behind. And although we have seen all this money poured by Labour into the city centre, we have not felt the benefits all round. And I do need to come back on Bev's point about taxpayer money. These developers are being lent our taxpayer money at preferential rates. They could get market loans, and that's not what's happening. £1 billion of loans have been given to these developers, 60% in a cosy relationship with one developer, and they have provided more or less zero social and genuinely affordable homes. So that is not acceptable. And as your mayor, I will put using your taxpayers' money in the most responsible way at the heart of what I do, and that will only be used for things that are making a difference to our communities. And so I'm going to be building and retrofitting those homes around our city region, really focusing on the areas that have been left behind. But also we need to be looking at our transport. I'm going to introduce an express high-frequency bus service called the B-Orbit that's going to go around the edges. We have a transport system that's based around spokes where you've got to go into the city centre and back out, and far too many times our outer boroughs are left behind.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Yeah, so there are many ways that we can do this, right? So business rates is a really important one. We need to make sure that when city centre is successful, and we have to accept that there's an economic centre in Greater Manchester, but when central Manchester is doing well, we need to make sure that we redistribute the business rates and everything else that the conurbation gets back into those boroughs. And we've talked about it a lot tonight, haven't we, about the mayoral development companies. We need to expand them. You know, we need to make sure that they're accountable, but we need to expand them. There are success stories in that, and we need to make sure that they exist across every single borough across Greater Manchester. And coming down to like growth, and actually sometimes a little bit of the black holes of the economy across Greater Manchester, and I think a lot of that comes down to transport, right? If you work in the gig economy, actually working in the city centre, if you live in parts of Greater Manchester, is totally affordable. So I think our politicians need to be a little bit more bold. I think that the B network should be absolutely free within the next 10 years. I think genuinely that's the challenge, and it's going to be a hell of a challenge to get that done. It's going to be really expensive. That's the one thing to deliver growth across every single part of Greater Manchester, and it will stop those economic black holes appearing across the region.
Thank you very much.
Talking about language, my core pledge, back the boroughs. No, that's what my message is all about as Greater Manchester Mayoral candidate. So it's a great one to come on. I completely believe that these periphery boroughs have been completely left out of the Manchester picture. Funding and investment has completely been absorbed by Manchester City Centre, and you can see it. Painting buses yellow and putting B logos on them doesn't make for a high quality, reliable bus service. There are people in more rural communities across Greater Manchester that do not have a reliable bus service, and that is wrong. We have 3 boroughs who still don't have a Metrolink, who are still paying the Mayor's Council tax. Stockport, Wigan and Bolton residents are paying this Mayor's tax, which has gone up 127% over the last 9 years under Andy Burnham. They're paying for a service they're not receiving. I'm pledging to freeze the Mayor's tax and put money back into people's pockets. Half of all the Stockport housing allocation is going into one area, Woodford. That is completely unsustainable and poor decision making. And I want to protect the Greenbelt and ensure that affordable housing is put on brownfield sites where infrastructure and services are available. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. So look, I think how everyone benefits from growth is a fundamental challenge that we have to set ourselves. Historically, Manchester, and it remains the case actually, there are more kids growing up in poverty in Manchester than there are in other boroughs across Greater Manchester. So it's not just it going to the boroughs, but it's who within those boroughs actually feels the benefit. The reason that we set up the Good Growth Fund is precisely the point that for too long we saw private capital coming into our city and not going to where it's needed. It's why in March alone we signed off £400 million going into boroughs right across Greater Manchester, from Bury to Bolton, from Oldham into Stockport. And as Mayor, I would have a good growth charter that commits every single company that receives funds through the Good Growth Fund to be a good employer, to be a good landlord, and to commit to giving back. I have a plan for town centres, a plan for high streets, using business rates and the Good Growth Fund that's able to deliver that. But until everyone is lifted up, until everyone is out of poverty, and until we have a city region where everyone benefits, then the mission isn't finished.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, another round of applause for answering all those questions. So thank you so much for answering our questions. So finally, I'll give you extra time, so you have 2 minutes and 2 seconds each for the closing statements. So we'll go in this order. Richard first, Phil, Bev, and Geraldine. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much for your time. I know that, and thank you so much for those people that took part in the workshop as well to help inform all of those questions. It's really, really important. The first time I've ever seen anything like this happen, and it's really refreshing to see it. So well done to you all. And look, listen, this election is in the backdrop of what has been one of the worst decades in this country's political history. The revolving door at number 10 has resulted in another by-election. And there's going to be some people across Greater Manchester that are going to the polls, what, for a third time in recent weeks and months. I think this politics is broken. We need to stop it, right? And I think we can demand a better politics. Like, we can disagree agreeably. We can work together. I think we need politicians to be working together, and I think this is a really good opportunity to set an example here in Greater Manchester. But listen, I want to focus on some of the issues that I think are really important to the people of Greater Manchester in my closing pitch, and I want to go back to them. I want to go back to the cost of childcare across the region. My dad made the decision not to go back to work when I was a kid because we just couldn't afford it. My family grew up and lived in poverty, and we just couldn't do it. And there's so many people that make that decision across Greater Manchester. So there's something that we have to do to deal with that, and I think it means using the powers that Greater Manchester has, using it as an actual service provider to help people along that path. I've talked about cooperative housing. I've talked about changing the housing model and how we deliver it using the Mayoral finance facility. We need to do much more of that, think outside the box. And finally, on social care. My mum sadly passed away with Alzheimer's. She was diagnosed in her 50s. More and more people are getting diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia every single day, and it's getting younger and younger. And this is something that we have to deal with, because families can't afford to put them through the best care. We want to, don't we? We want to make sure that our loved ones have the best possible end to their life, but unfortunately we can't, and that is an injustice. I think Greater Manchester needs a full review of its affordability, its quality and its access to social care. That's my offer to you, and I hope that you can trust me with your vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So Greater Manchester deserves a mayor who is focused on delivery, value for money and the everyday concerns of residents across all 10 boroughs. For too long, too many decisions have been made without enough transparency, without enough accountability, and without enough focus on the towns and communities beyond Manchester city centre. My campaign is about restoring trust, backing the boroughs, protecting what matters, and making Greater Manchester work better for people who live here. I want to establish a Greater Manchester-wide food insecurity dashboard that is visible to all residents, and residents themselves can see how we're doing. I want to joint up support so people don't feel passed around between agencies. And I want prevention, affordable homes and brownfield sites, safer communities, better transport, better value for money, and freezing the Mayor's council tax. Greater Manchester is £1.4 billion in debt. And the mayor's tax has increased 127% over the last 9 years in Trafford, and we cannot continue like this. We need to get things under control. And with my business background, I will look into the finances and give better value for money for you as residents of Greater Manchester. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So, thank you all for being here tonight, and I just want to say, I'm standing for Mayor, like I said in my opening pitch, because I love this place. I've worked hard with Andy to try and turn things around, but I'm not here as a status quo candidate because our city region needs to be even better. I've set myself a test that as Mayor, every single decision that I make every single day will pass the test as how it makes life better for Greater Manchester residents. Be that putting more money in your pockets with things that I've announced like free bus passes for 11 to 18-year-olds that puts £500 in the pockets of every family with every child, or be that around more affordable homes with the 50,000 council social and affordable homes that I've built. Be that investing in our town centres and high streets using our good growth fund, or be that making our neighbourhoods and communities safer, or be that the plan around the Greater Manchester Youth Promise to make life better for our young people. I stand on a track record of being able to say I've run a big organisation and I'm standing to deliver for residents. But I think there's something bigger at stake here. We're standing, I think, in this city region, a pride place that speaks over 200 languages, that has for generations been built by people that come here to make this place better. We're standing at a time when our politics are trying to divide our neighbours against each other, and we have to say no. So I ask and I plead to you, only one poll has been done, and that's in the MEM. It had me on 33, it had Reform on 30, and that shows that something bigger is at stake here. So I'm asking you to think about defending the things that matter to us in Greater Manchester when we make this decision. I'll work hard for you, I'll fight for you, and I will not rest until we make this Greater Manchester even greater.
Thanks. I want to start by thanking the team tonight for the organisation and running a really pioneering hustings. It's something that none of us, I think, have seen before. And you know, politics is broken, our electoral system is broken, and people's trust in politics is broken. And that's a very dangerous situation, and that is why we need organisations like this, looking at solutions, looking at how we can give power back to the people. Because this election is about us taking back Greater Manchester from the establishment and from big money. As your Green Mayor, I will fight for free buses for under 22s, for genuinely affordable housing, to get our high streets buzzing again, and to make this the greenest city region in our country. Because this election, it's a choice. It's a choice between Reform, with their anger and division, between more of the same from Labour, who've got us into this mess, or the Green Party, with our bold solutions and our message of unity and hope. And because in this election we have the supplementary vote, you are free to take your number one vote and vote with your head and your heart for the mayor that you absolutely want. And you still have that second vote that you can use as your insurance for the one that you would take if you needed to. And you know, tonight has been a really positive event, but I knock on a lot of doors and people out there are angry. And they need solutions. They need a party that doesn't work for big donors. They need a party and a mayor whose only vested interests are our people and our planet. Because anger alone isn't going to fix the problems that we have. A serious, experienced mayor can fix it. Together we can do this. It is time for real change.
Thank you so much to the candidates. Thank you for coming. Thank you for engaging. And just to say, we are right on time. I was supposed to hand over at 2052, and it is 2052. Yay!
Thank you so much. You're amazing. Isn't she amazing? Can we have a massive round of applause for our candidates? all the way through. Can we please thank our brilliant timekeeper, Zara? Can we thank our catering team, Software, our welcome team, our brilliant security staff, the building staff, everyone that helped behind the scenes, everyone that flyers, and all of our stewards here today, and our brilliant facilitators. Thank you so much. There's just so many people involved, and thank you for being part by coming here, celebrating all the hard work that goes into it and something like this together. I'm sure that you're all hot, keen to go home probably and digest this event. Speaking of digest, we have plenty of food left, and we would love you on your way out to take. We've got some plates and fork. We would love you to take a bowl home so that we don't waste any of that food. I've just got a couple of little plugs. Adam, give us a wave. Is a filmmaker. He's going to be capturing something tonight. Like we heard, it is a really pioneering event. Obviously, we've whipped together. There's loads of lessons to learn from it, but we would love to capture some of your thoughts on this topic as well. So anyone that's willing to do a little piece to camera, please go and talk to Adam. And the very, very last thing I want you to do before you leave is on your tables, you have these sort of cut out pieces of paper. It's a sentence stem for you to finish. So it says, I want the next Mayor of Greater Manchester to commit to, and we would like you all to finish that sentence and leave it on your table. We're going to collect them and do something fun with them.